We had a controller issue with the toilet when they spun it up, so we got to work through that. There was also a water tank valve. There's 4 water tanks on Orion. There's a crossover valve that connects the 2 gangs of tanks. It's supposed to be open to ensure maximum flow. It was closed during ascent. When you shake the thing, things like that happen, so they're going to reset the valve. And then they had a recurrence of on Artemis 1, we had a latching current limiter failure on a piece of electronics, a transient failure when it gets exposed to radiation. They took 1 hit of those. We took about...
You know what? From the outside, NASA's Artemis 2 launch looked absolutely flawless. But inside, that's a different story. There are some issues, folks.
Hey, I'm Lucas. Welcome to the SpaceX community. Let's get started.
Just after posting our initial quick recap of today's Artemis 2 launch, the most common questions that I got from the community were what all things went wrong during the launch. Well, we do have a couple of things that messed up. Yes, that's correct. NASA just stated those in the press conference that they held just after the launch. Over the past 24 hours, NASA pulled off a historic liftoff with Artemis 2 on April 1st, 2026, sending the SLS rocket and Orion Spacecraft Integrity on a free return lunar flyby with 4 astronauts aboard. But right from the start, the mission wasn't flawless, and the post-launch press conference laid out every hiccup in real time. Here, I'll go more in depth into the overall flight review from liftoff through the initial orbital updates, but with a heavy focus on every issue and error the crew, Orion, and SLS faced, both the ones that popped up during the flight and the lingering pre-launch headaches they carried over. We'll rate each one on a 1 to 10 severity scale if the same problem happens again on future Artemis flights, because these details matter for what comes next. Starting yesterday at 6:35 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time from Launch Complex 39B, the stack cleared the tower cleanly after months of delays from hydrogen leaks and a last-minute helium flow snag in the upper stage. But those early problems set the tone for a flight that had a few more surprises once the crew was weightless. Focusing back on the ascent phase, the flight looked textbook on the surface. Twin solid rocket boosters and 4 RS-25 engines generating 8.8 million pounds of thrust. Clean booster separation at T plus 2 minutes, fairings jettisoned, core stage cutoff at T plus 8 minutes, ICPS burn to orbit, and solar arrays deploying by T plus 24 minutes. The crew reported smooth ride quality and stayed calm over the comm loops as they floated into microgravity and ran systems checks. Initial telemetry showed propulsion, thermal control, and life support, all nominal, with the astronauts even sharing quick Earth views and light jokes. But the press conference made it clear that even the smooth ascent carried forward some pre-launch gremlins that teams had to watch like hawks. First up was the out-of-family temperature reading on one of the launch abort system batteries that had shown up during final countdown. NASA confirmed it was just an instrumentation glitch, nothing wrong with the actual battery, but it forced extra monitoring right through liftoff. If this same sensor glitch happens again on a future crewed flight, I'd rate the severity a 3 out of 10. It didn't threaten the abort system itself, but repeated false alarms could eat up crew time and ground resources when every second counts during ascent. Next, the range safety flight termination system communication snag that had appeared pre-launch also got revisited. Teams fixed it on the fly using some vintage shuttle era hardware, and it never impacted the actual launch, but the fact that they had to pull out old school backups on a brand new rocket raised eyebrows. On severity, if it recurs, I'd give it a 4 out of 10. It's not mission ending on its own, but if comms between range safety and the vehicle keep dropping on higher stakes flights, like when Orion is carrying a full lunar landing crew, it could force unnecessary holds, or worse, complicate an emergency destruct decision. These two pre-launch carryovers were the first signs that the integrated SLS Orion stack still has some integration kinks to iron out, even after years of testing since Artemis 1. With ascent complete and Orion in that initial high Earth orbit, the real in-flight surprises started showing up, and the press conference zeroed in on them without sugarcoating. The biggest one was the blinking fault light on the Universal Waste Management System, the fancy deep space toilet. Shortly after reaching orbit during a routine checkout, the controller lit up with what looked like a sensor or fan anomaly. The crew, including Christina Koch, who jumped on troubleshooting, had to switch to backup waste management for a few hours, while ground teams uplinked step-by-step fixes. They got it back online without any major drama, but the fact that a toilet controller failed on the very first crewed outing of Orion is exactly the kind of minor but annoying bug that can snowball on longer missions. On my severity scale, if this happens again, especially on a multi-week lunar landing flight, I'd rate it a solid 6 out of 10. It's not going to lose the mission, but repeated. Waste system faults could affect crew health, morale, and hygiene in deep space where there's no quick resupply. NASA called it a collaborative win between crew and controllers, and it definitely proved the troubleshooting procedures work, but it's a clear reminder that Orion's life support hardware still needs more shakeout time. Right alongside the toilet issue came a brief communications hiccup. During a satellite network handover, ground teams temporarily lost downlink from the crew while Orion was switching tracking links. The astronauts confirmed they could still hear uplink the whole time, and the dropout resolved in minutes, but for a few tense moments mission control was flying partially blind on telemetry. If this exact comms dropout recurs on future flights, especially during critical maneuvers like the trans-lunar injection burn or lunar flyby, I'd rate the severity a 5 out of 10. It's manageable now in low Earth orbit with lots of ground stations, but in cislunar space where coverage is spottier, losing real-time data could delay problem-solving or force the crew to handle more on their own. The press conference emphasized that no other major Orion or SLS failures popped up during ascent or early orbit, and the European service module performed flawlessly on power and propulsion. Still, these 4 issues, 2 pre-launch carryovers, and 2 in-flight were the main topics, and they dominated the discussion because Artemis 2 is supposed to be the dress rehearsal for crewed lunar landings. It's worth noting that throughout these early flight hours, the crew stayed on top of everything, methodically working checklists, while the mission team confirmed proximity operations went smoothly with Victor Glover manually piloting to within 33 feet of the spent ICPS stage. Perigee and apogee raised burns using the service module engine were spot on, and the solar arrays kept everything powered. But the press conference kept circling back to those bugs because they're the data points NASA will use to harden the vehicle before Artemis 3. No catastrophic problems emerged, and the overall flight review still showed the SLS delivering Orion to a stable orbit right on timeline, but the tone was clear. These are the exact teething issues a new human-rated deep space ship is expected to show on its first crewed outing. The team's rapid fixes built confidence, yet they also highlighted why we need the shakedown cruise before putting boots back on the moon. By the way, if you want quick deep spaceflight updates, join our community. It's completely free, just hit subscribe and you're in. As the mission arcs toward that lunar flyby, comparisons between Orion and SpaceX's Crew Dragon keep coming up, especially now that we've seen Orion's first real in-flight quirks. Orion, developed with Lockheed Martin and the European Space Agency, is built for deep space with bigger volume, better radiation shielding, and a service module that can handle the big burns to reach the moon and come home. Its AvCoat heat shield is designed for those blistering lunar re-entry speeds, and the launch abort system can pull the crew away from a failing SLS at any moment. Crew Dragon, on the other hand, is optimized for low Earth orbit trips to the ISS, compact, rapidly reusables, with super Draco thrusters for precise landings and an abort system already proven in actual flight tests. Dragon's cost per seat is a fraction of Orion's, and it splashes down fast instead of Orion's slower ship and helicopter Pacific recovery. Dragon has flown dozens of crewed missions with quick upgrades based on real data, while Orion's development has been slower and more expensive. In my opinion, when it comes to picking a ride for a crewed space mission, especially one pushing boundaries like this, SpaceX's Dragon wins hands down on safety, reliability, and value. Dragon's track record is unmatched. Flawless aborts in flight, reusable capsules that fly again after minimal work, and a pace that turned ideas into hardware without the endless delays Orion has faced. Orion, for all its deep space design, has been plagued by problems even in testing, from heat shield char loss and cracking on Artemis 1 to the hydrogen leaks, helium blockages, and now these in-flight toilet and comms bugs. Those former NASA engineers who flagged safety concerns weren't wrong. Orion feels like a high-cost, low-flight rate holdover from the shuttle era, while Dragon is the future, innovative, cheap, and focused on getting crews there and back safely. If I were strapping in, I'd choose Dragon every time. That said, the final call belongs to the astronauts and mission goals, which is why I'd love to hear from you. If you were boarding a spacecraft for this lunar trip or any deep space journey, what would you choose? The mighty but still buggy Orion or the nimble battle-tested SpaceX Dragon? Drop your vote in the comment box below. Simply type Orion or Dragon, and let's get the discussion rolling. In conclusion, today's Artemis 2 launch is a huge step forward, even with the handful of issues NASA openly detailed, proving the SLS Orion combo can fly crewed, while giving engineers exactly the data they need to fix those problems before the next flight. The crew's safe, early progress shows spaceflight is never routine, but quick troubleshooting turns small bugs into lessons that will make future missions safer. As Orion heads toward the moon, these early hiccups, rated and discussed openly, will help light the path for sustainable lunar exploration and eventually Mars. We will have to wait and see how the rest of the mission progresses and the impact it has on the space industry.
Thanks for watching today's episode. Don't forget to subscribe and give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Stay tuned for another great video tomorrow.